Good morning, YouTube. It is Kiona. I am coming with another transparency moment. Yes, I am still in my pajamas, okay? Today's my day of rest. I can rest for the day until I have to go take care of my father tonight. And, yeah, I'm resting because the Lord told me to rest. But I've also been trying to deliver this message. Same message. This is my 5th attempt. I have tried it on my iPad over and over again. Keep shutting off, deleting my videos. My videos are disappearing. I don't know what the heck's going on, but every time I try to put a message out, it keeps happening. So here we are on my cell phone. So hopefully this will work, because clearly just me talking about my life is an issue. So here we are, recording again. 5th time's the charm. Right. So I was just talking with the Holy Spirit all morning about my faith and Him growing my faith and my faith being tested in certain situations and the favor over my life and in just the ways that God shows up in our lives, right? So, because your girl has been through the ringer since childhood, and I know many ways that God has test faith, will move in faith, whatever. I know these things. So we're going to start again. First story starts when I was 3. I was 3 years old. My father and my mother were fighting. My father had me in his arms, and I think he was trying to leave my mom or something. I don't know. They're not here to tell the story, so from what I got from placing different people who were in the storyline at different times, he was trying to leave with me, and my mother wouldn't allow it, so she stabbed him out. And she ended up getting arrested, and my father ended up in the hospital. And my brothers and stuff were taken by other family members, other people, godmothers, whatever. They all got placed. I did not. No one showed up for me. So the cop held on to me because he did not want me to go into the California system. So he did his due diligence to find a relative to take me in. So my aunt, who lived hours and hours and hours away in another part of California, he got a hold of her. She said she would come get me. So he waited. He cared for me the whole time until she came to get me. Okay, so I went with her. I was staying with her until she called my other aunt in Massachusetts to see if she could take her, because my aunt there, she took me in, but she couldn't long-term care for me. So, she called my other aunt in Massachusetts, who did not have the means to come over there and get me, but she found a way. She talked her way onto the plane to get us there, and she talked her way on the plane to get us back. She did it with no money, and she still came and got me. Right. Crazy. Uncommon favor. So, with that being said, although it was a rough moment, and I remember that plane ride too. That's crazy, because I was 3. Even though that was that rough moment in that patch in my life, it just shows that when you are one of God's chosen people, no matter the situation that you're in, and even if you yourself cannot cry out for yourself, He will still show up and take care of anything that needs to be taken care of to get you to where you need to be. So that was story number 1. We made it through. We're still recording. Thank you, Jesus. Okay, so here we go. Story number 2. My son, my youngest son. I have 2 boys. My youngest son is about to be 18 in a month. Well, a month and a half. He, as a baby, had severe asthma. I was always having to call out of work, leave work to go pick him up from school in the middle of the day. You name it, I went through it with him. We were in ambulance rides. He would go with his father, get sick, come back to me at the worst. I mean, it was rough. So, there was one night, well, before I even get started on that, so I lost my jobs, right? So I decided to go to hair school because I needed something to do, during that time. And I was trying to better myself, like a job where I could, make my own hours and my own schedule, that type of thing, right? So I went to hair school. Now my teacher, Mr. Dutton, I will never forget this man. He was awesome. He knew what I was going through with my son, because even in hair school, I was getting called. And they would even call the school, okay? For me to go pick up my son because his asthma was that bad. And so my teacher at hair school, and I thank God for him, because I would have never made it through hair school without this man. I made it through, well, usually they just have a session that you're supposed to get through so many hours, whatever. I did not graduate with the first block when I signed up, but I did graduate with the second block. And there were a few other girls who didn't even have kids who graduated with the second block too. No shade, but I'm just saying. So, yeah. Mr. Dutton was awesome. Because on the days where I couldn't be in class, or I had no babysitter or anything like that, or if I had to call up there and tell him, like, I'm not going to come in today, my son's sick with asthma, he would still teach the lesson with me, or have me come in and take the test with my son there, so that I could get it done. Like, this dude made sure I got through hair school. He was like, no, you're too talented to just be, like, letting this slide by. I want you to make it through. So, you need help, I'm going to get you through. Type thing. Uncommon favor. So, I thank the Lord for him. But, anyway, back to my son and his asthma attacks and stuff. There was this night, and I think I was in hair school at that time, too. And he was just going and going, and I was, like, tired. I think we had already been to the hospital twice that week. And I was like, I'm tired of this. I just don't want to do this all the time. Like, it's driving me insane. So, I was like, okay, Lord. I ain't never laid my hands on nobody in my life, first off. Second, it was a test of my faith. Am I going to believe that you said you had healing powers, Lord? So you're going to heal my son tonight. Because I'm not going through this. He needs some type of relief. He needs relief for himself, because I'm sure he didn't want to go through it either. And I'm sure it was painful. I don't know what asthma feels like. I didn't have asthma. So, and just to watch him was enough, And, so I laid my hands on my son, and I prayed for him. And my prayer did not get answered immediately, but it did get answered. Because I want to say maybe a couple months later, we moved from where we were in Massachusetts to California. And I tell you, when I got to California, I was in a panic, because I was like, I don't know doctors, I don't know the system, I don't know healthcare, I don't know how I'm going to get my son taken care of if he has an asthma attack. That was my biggest anxiety when I got to the state of California. Don't you know that we went with just the supplies that we had for his asthma, what we had left from the state of Massachusetts, and we never used anything from that day forward. I mean, I had albuterol that I was throwing away because he didn't need it anymore. Not one asthma attack, not one cough. I was like, what? Like, Lord, you answered my prayer. Stop playing. So that was a test of my faith too. And he was like, you had faith enough to ask me to heal him. So I answered your prayer and I healed him. And even my son pointed out, he was like, Mom, I haven't had an asthma attack. And I was like, oh, Lord, you answered our prayer. So that was my second story of how God can test your faith and grow your faith. And if you exercise it and you believe and you trust and believe and rely on, he will answer it. Right? Right. Next one. My neighbor. Same place where I prayed over my son. My neighbor downstairs, directly beneath me. Her and her son had, what was it? Brittle bone disease, right? So they break bones all the time. And she had it really bad as a child. She obviously grew up and knew how to maintain herself later on. But her baby, not her, because she had 2 boys too, but her baby had it. And he was probably 1 or 2, I don't remember, when he broke his thigh. And this day, I was laying in my bed upstairs, and I knew that I was about to be used, because the Holy Spirit shows up and lets me know things before they happen sometimes. But I didn't know the situation of the extent that it was going to be, but I knew something. So I was upstairs in my bed, minding my business, watching movies, kids playing, we chilling. I get a call. She's on the phone, screaming, hysterical, bugging out, asking me what she should do. Because she didn't want to go to the hospital in the town that we were in, because she didn't want them to label her as an abuser. Because so many hospitals only assess what is presented in front of them in medical terms and not looking at history. Okay? So she didn't want to be labeled as a child abuser, and I already knew her situation. I knew that her son had that, but only his doctors were at Children's Hospital, which was in Boston, which was an hour and 45 minutes away. So they knew his situation. They knew his case. So she was trying to call around and see if she can get an ambulance to take her to Children's Hospital. They weren't going to do that. They were only going to take her to the nearest hospital right then and there, because it's an emergency. That's how it works. Then you get transferred. But she didn't want them to label her. So that was her situation. Her and the father are both in panic mode. They do not know what to do with themselves, right? In this situation. So, me being me, the good old helper, because I help everybody, assess the situation. I was like, girl, I am upstairs. Why are we still on the phone? I can come down and talk to you. So I hung up with her. I took out snacks, got my kids set up, told them to stay upstairs, that I'd be back in a minute. I have to go see what's going on. So I go downstairs. The Lord's speaking to me the whole time, because I'm just watching them. It's like a movie unfolding in front of my face. And the Lord's telling me what steps need to be taken. I just listen, because the Lord will do that. Like, remove you from a situation, you just watching it play out, and he's steady talking to you, giving you direction. So, I assessed the situation. The baby was laying on the couch, and she had him propped up on blankets, because he had broke his thigh bone. And her and the father, bad situation. So I stepped in and I told them, this right here has to stop, because the baby over there is hurt and he's in pain. He needs this situation taken care of, and it cannot wait. This is not a time for you to put yourselves before him. Okay? Okay. So, with that being said, I told the father, I was like, I'm going to ride in the back seat of this car with her, holding your son, until we get to Boston. She was like, are you serious? I said, yes, I'm serious. This is what I have to do. This is what I'm here for. This is how it's going to go down. You, sir, are going to stay with her son and my son. You're going to take care of them. You're going to make sure they're good. My kids will play with your son. You won't have to worry about it. We'll keep you updated. We'll keep you posted. We're going to do this. She goes, but I can't put him in a car seat, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I know that. Now, I was reminded of the story in the Bible where Moses was on the hill and he had to hold his hands up. And as long as he held his hands up, they received victory, right? The moment he put his hands down, people were dying. That's what this situation was like for me. Yes, yes it was. I had to sit in the back seat of her car, hold my hands like this, place the baby across my hands, and ride in the back seat of this car, adjusting to make sure that the bumps in the shock did not make him more uncomfortable. I did this for an hour and 45-minute ride. I did it for the 20 minutes that we had to find a parking spot. I did it until we walked in to the back of the emergency room. I sat in the waiting room until they let us in and put him down. Yes, I held this baby for, I want to say, 3 hours straight with my arms like this without moving. Okay? Yes. That was the Lord testing my faith right then and there. And to this day, I'm sure we don't talk like we used to, but I'm sure she'll hold that moment true, because even when she went to church, she testified on it. But you know what? I didn't at the time think of myself as anything better. I was just trying to help the situation along. I followed direction. I was there. I was being used. That's all it was. And everybody was like, oh, she's such a great friend to have, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't even about that. It was more or less, if this was my child, this is what I would want done, type thing. So, yes, I held her baby for 2.5 hours. That whole time I was praying and prayed over this little boy and made sure he didn't have any pain. I prayed for the strength in my arms the whole entire ride. By the time I got to the hospital, my arms were shaking, but I was still holding him steady. Even when we were in the hospital, because they didn't want to touch him or make any more issues or be the cause of anything. So I had literally had to move the baby onto the x-ray machine and all that. But he wouldn't let nobody else touch him either, not even his mom, because he knew that I was the one that was sent to help him. So with that being said, I had prayed over him, and I think it takes like 3 weeks or more. I don't know how many weeks for that thigh bone to heal. It healed within 8 days. 8 days. Because I prayed over him in that very moment. I exercised my faith. I exercised my faith for that ride. Because your girl, I don't even know how I did it. I just knew I had to do it. So I did it. But yeah. So I guess those are the 3 stories that the Lord wanted me to share in my transparency moments today of uncommon favor and testing and stretching of our faith. That's what it was that he wanted me to speak on. was the testing and stretching of your faith. Because right now we are in a time where God has been giving people promises and things of that nature, but people aren't seeing their promises come forth before them. Why? Because this is a time of stretching your faith. You have to meet God halfway in order to get your promise, right? So if you're believing for something, you cannot doubt. You have to hold true to your belief in your faith. No matter what your situation looks like, it could look far from what it's supposed to be. But if you have faith and trust and believe and keep praying and keep believing, then it'll come forth for you. So that is my message for today. And I hope that it reaches who it's meant to reach, because this is the 5th time I recorded it. So yeah, have a blessed day, y'all.